Hi there, writers. Today's video lesson is just a walkthrough of WPA number 3, the section 3 outline for your iSearch paper. Now keep in mind for your particular semester it might be called WPA something else, but the concept is the same. This is for the section 3 of your iSearch paper and how to create an outline. So the first thing you need to know is, first of all, remember to go back to the assignment sheet for the paper and take a look at the paper structure to remind yourself of what each section should do. So hopefully you've already drafted section 1 and are working on drafting, or have already drafted section 2 where you detail your search steps. Of course, you'll use paragraphs throughout these. You'll have probably several or a couple or a few paragraphs in the section 2. But section 3 here is really the most formal part of this paper, and it's the paper that's going to sound most like a research paper that you may already be familiar with. So you will have a short introduction to this section where you summarize your overall findings. You will have a thesis statement, and we'll talk about what that will look like as you advance through the stages of your paper. And then a paragraph for each important search result. So each key thing you found out that's related to your research question and that's unified, right? If you found out something sort of not related, you're not going to include that. But key things related to what you found out, with your analysis and commentary on each of those ideas. Very importantly, we're also including synthesis, discussion of how the sources interact with each other. So you will not just say, in the first source I found out this, in the second source I found out this. Instead, you're arranging it by key ideas. One key idea I found out was this. Here are two sources, and here's what each of those said about those ideas. And here's another source that had some evidence related to that. So we're organizing by idea, not by source, just like in all research papers. They are organized by the key ideas. Section 4's reflections, we're not there yet though, so we're just talking about outlining section 3 today. It's very similar to how you would outline any paper because this is the most traditional part of this paper. So your section 3 outline will look like this, and you'll see here M and E. So that's a reference back to the meal plan stuff that we learned about last week and into this week, where this is a paragraph, right? So this is just a way of remembering the key parts of a good paragraph. You may have heard of pie paragraphs or TICA paragraphs. It's really the same thing. It's just a different word for each key part of the paragraph. So we're going to use meal plans for right now as our way to remember the parts of each paragraph. So M is the main idea, and again, that's going to be basically the topic sentence, right? You're going to start with a sentence in your own words, not from a source, where you have stated one key thing you found out from your research. And you can even be that direct. You can say, one key discovery I made in my research is blank. And then, so that's going to be one sentence, maybe two, if you need to explain it a little bit. Then you're going to pull in the evidence that relates to that, or what did the sources say about that. And again, we're going to synthesize. So it's not source by source. It's any of your sources that have something to say about that key main idea. You're going to pull them in there. Of course, your paragraphs will also have the the A and the L, so your analysis after and with the evidence, and then your overall wrap-up commentary lead out of the paragraph and link back to the thesis and the key idea. But in an outline, we're going to focus just on the M and the E parts. So I want you to see this so that you know the outline doesn't cover the whole paragraph, but we are focusing on stating the main idea of each paragraph and then stating the evidence that will be included in each of those main ideas. So returning now to the section 3 outline, there are some instructions here. It's going to be an informal outline, and what I mean by that is you don't have to use like Roman numerals followed by capital A followed by, there are very structured rules for how formal outline should go. You can just use bullet points. You can use 1, 2, and 3, whatever makes sense to you. But it does need to be detailed, and detailed is in bold and explained here. So you're going to have multiple supporting details and evidence, and you're going to be specific on those. So you will need to reference your sources to make a good outline. The reason I'm asking you to do this is because it's going to make writing your paper much, much easier. If you have a good outline and you take this week to work on that outline, writing the paper is just a matter of explaining it all out in more words. So this is going to make us have a more structured, detailed, coherent, unified paper, and it's also really going to help your writing process and help with that writer's block stuff that we tend to experience. I also want to caution you against the 3 main points trap. A lot of times when we're asked to write essays, we think of them as having 5 total paragraphs and 3 main ideas. But this section of your paper will be 2 to 3 pages. So 3 paragraphs is not going to cut it. It's not going to be enough. And you're probably discovering way more than that in your research anyways. So you can expect to have 4 to 6 main ideas, and therefore 4 to 6 paragraphs, because we're taking 1 paragraph for each main idea. And we want to be careful not to smush. We don't want to smush multiple main ideas into paragraphs. We really want to give space and time for each main idea in their own paragraph. Now, keep in mind, those main ideas could be a key idea, a key concept, a key consideration, a key perspective. So maybe somebody offered a different perspective. That could be its own paragraph as well. So over here, the first key main idea, you want to think about how you might organize your main ideas as well. Maybe the most important one is going to come first. Maybe the most common one is going to come first. Sometimes people choose to put the most simple one first or the most obvious one first. If you're talking about effects, probably one of those effects happens first. Or one of your causes came first. So you want to really think about, well, in what order could I put these key ideas? In fact, I really recommend that before you get to this outline part, you just list your main ideas. So effect number 1, you would obviously be specific. You would say what the effect is here, but just list them all out. Once you have them all out, then you could consider, okay, what order should these be in? And that's when you can put them in this more structured format. So you're going to state the main idea here as a topic sentence in your own words, and you want to make it sound like a topic sentence. So the most important key idea I discovered about Bengal tigers' habitat loss is how global warming impacts forests. Okay, I just completely made this up, but it's specific, it's stated as a sentence, and it has a key to the organization that I chose. So I chose this because it's the most important one. You might say something like the first cause, or the first key effect, the first thing that begins to happen when somebody, does whatever. And then here you're going to have evidence, and that's going to be source-based and specific and detailed. So you could think of it, underneath this in a normal outline, what would you have? So you could do bullet points. You could come over here and set it to bullet points. You could do 1, 2, 3. You could do Roman numerals if you're used to doing outlines like that. I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3. That's how I tend to do things. So maybe I had like 3 sources that talked about global warming impacting forests. So I'm going to state each of those as a main idea. Here you can use phrases. Maybe those temperature changes result in loss of food chain things. Okay, since I'm making this up, I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. You will know what you're talking about based on your research, so make sure yours actually makes sense. And something else, right? Now, I also want you to start noting the sources. So let me say, maybe I had a source, the author's last name was Herbert, so I want to note that there. Maybe this one, the source was Johnson. And maybe under here, there were a couple things. And maybe another source also mentioned this. Ooh, Herbert mentioned this too, so I'm going to include that there. So what I'm looking for are multiple pieces of evidence or, subpoints over here. And then please start to mention your sources. Again, that will help you. You're going to have to come back and cite these sources. So you should have your sources, have them open on your tabs, have a little folder, and skim back through your sources and think, okay, which sources mention this? If you really want to make it easier for you, you can go ahead and put the citation in. Maybe that was on page 25. Maybe this one was 265. Maybe this one wasn't paginated, so I don't need a page number. But this, again, is just going to make it much easier for you when you go to write your paper. At the bare minimum, though, I want to see multiple key ideas under each main idea, multiple pieces of evidence, and I want to see that you're beginning to tie in your sources. Those should be real sources that you're actually going to use that you found in your source journal or as you're continuing to do more research, okay? Now, there are 6 boxes here. You do not have to have 6, but you should have more than 3. If you don't need the rest, you can just leave them blank. If you need more, you can go, let's see, insert, table, no, format, table, insert row below, and then just call it number 7. You probably won't have more than 7 or 8, and you should not have fewer than 4. So 4 is the minimum that I'm looking for here as you are continuing to work. You may also find too that you need more research. So a lot of times when we're doing the outline, we find out that we have some gaps in our research. Maybe you have a key idea here, but I only have one source and it barely talks about this. And that can inform your research further. So go find more sources about this specific thing. So this can be a really good way to continue research to fill in those gaps that you might have. Let me know if you have any questions. When you're finished, you can submit this and you'll get feedback. For full credit, I'm looking for the detail and following the instructions that I've mentioned here and on this assignment sheet. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Good luck.